Domestic Violence Prevention and Response Family Advocacy Program. The goal of the Department of the Navy is to eliminate domestic violence that affects Navy personnel and family members by raising awareness, ensuring violence free homes, coordinating with local resources, and holding offenders accountable by raising awareness through prevention education, ensuring sailors and their family live in violence free homes, coordinating with community service providers such as victim shelters and local police, holding offenders accountable. What is domestic abuse? Domestic abuse is domestic violence or a pattern of behavior resulting in emotional, psychological abuse, economic control, and/or interference with personal liberty that is directed towards a person who is a current or former spouse, a person with whom the abuser shares a child in common, or a current or former intimate partner with whom the abuser shares or has shared a common domicile. To the right, you'll see contact numbers for the National Domestic Violence Hotline, Military One Source, and 911 for any domestic violence emergencies. What is domestic violence? Domestic violence is an offense under the United States Code, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, or state law involving the use, attempted use, or threatened use of force or violence against a person or a violation of a lawful order issued for the protection of a person who is a current or former spouse, a person with whom the abuser shares a child in common, or a current or former intimate partner with whom the abuser shares or has shared a common domicile. Domestic violence versus child abuse. Although domestic violence and child abuse are distinct actions, there are some links between the two. Many studies have been done on the correlation between domestic violence and child abuse. Fatalities. Domestic violence may be the single major precursor to child abuse and neglect fatalities. Violent parents. Men who witnessed domestic violence or were abused as children are twice as likely as sons of nonviolent parents to abuse their own intimate partners in adulthood. Child abuse. 50% of men who frequently assault their intimate partners also frequently abuse their children. Types of domestic abuse. Physical abuse. Examples of physically abusive acts include blocking escape, burning, grabbing, hitting, kicking, strangling, restraining, shaking, spitting, throwing objects, or using weapons. Sexual abuse. Examples of sexually abusive acts include forcing sex in front of others, harming the victim sexually, having sex when the victim does not consent or is incapable of consent, forcing the victim to participate in sexual acts when he or she does not want to perform, or rape. Psychological abuse. Psychologically abusive acts, often called emotional abuse, include acting violently towards children or other loved ones, including pets, controlling activities or resources such as controlling finances, limiting the victim's access to support systems, humiliating the victim, intimidating the victim, including damaging property, invading the victim's personal space, stalking, verbally abusing the victim, including making threats against self, children, loved ones, or pets, using ethnic, racial, culture, or gender slurs. Domestic violence reporting options. In an effort to empower victims to get the help they need without further traumatizing them, the Navy has established two methods of reporting domestic violence that put the victim in control of the post-violence process. Unrestricted reporting. The unrestricted report has been the Navy's long-standing reporting process and requires reporting the incident to the command. Victims who want the command to be involved and launch an official investigation would elect an unrestricted report. Command and security will be notified, an investigation will be initiated, medical care, counseling services, victim advocate will be activated, chaplain support, limited privacy, and legal services will be activated. Restricted reporting. A restricted report does not trigger an investigation. It enables the victim to avoid reporting the incident to the command and security. It's much more private than an unrestricted report. Command and security will not be notified, an investigation will not be initiated, medical care, counseling service, and victim advocacy will be activated, chaplain support will be available, maximum privacy will be awarded, and legal services will not be activated. Both an unrestricted and restricted report enable the victim to receive medical care, counseling, victim advocacy support, and chaplain support. With the unrestricted report, the victim gets maximum safety because the case was reported to both the command and security agencies. With a restricted report, on the other hand, the victim gets maximum privacy. The abuse is not reported to the command or security, so no one should know about it except a FAP clinician, victim advocate, and/or medical provider. Even with an unrestricted report, information about the case is protected and should be limited only to those with a need to know, including the command, security, military medical personnel, and, and any other release of information requires the consent of the victim. The restricted report, however, gives the victim complete control over information pertaining to the abuse. Other benefits of the unrestricted report are legal recourse against the perpetrator, including a military protective order, coordinated command and security support of the victim, retention of evidence, and the opportunity to prevent the perpetrator from committing further crimes. Who can accept a restricted report? If you're a victim of domestic abuse and you want to file a restricted report, the only people you can report to are a family advocacy program clinician, victim advocate, or a healthcare provider. In summary, the Navy will not tolerate domestic abuse. It harms the mission, hurts families, and is counter to ideals of courage, honor, and commitment. If you're an abuser or fear you might become one, seek help right now. Fleet and Family Services, your chaplain, and numerous other resources stand ready to help you. If you're a victim of abuse, you don't need to suffer in silence. Take advantage of resources shown here to get the help and support you need and deserve.